hate us. They'd like to stick a knife in our back. And want to know why? Because they're tired of us giving them everything. So they've had it crammed down their throat for so many years. It's just like the black man. The black man now, for the last 4 to 8 years, has been cramming this integrated idea down our throat, and so you've learned to hate them. And one of these days, at the rate they're going, there's going to be civil war in this country. It's going to be the white against the black, and the only thing I'd say is the black will never win.
If that bullet which killed Kennedy, that was an inch away from his head, this bullet didn't come from Sirhan. Did not come from Sirhan. Because he never got that close.
He was not an inch away from Kennedy's head, because he was across the room on this ice thing, and the room, I don't know the dimensions of the room, but he was not an inch away.
Was it possible for Sirhan to get behind you and behind Senator Kennedy and shoot from behind?
No, this was completely impossible, because Sirhan was in front of me, and he didn't have no way to go behind me, to come behind me, to shoot from behind me.
You're sure?
I'm 100% sure, yes. Oh, yes. I had the gun after the second shot. I had his hand with the gun in complete possession.
Did you see any security guards in that kitchen pantry?
There was a security man somewhere behind me. I don't know how far away from me.
On what side?
Somewhere around right on the left side, you know, right behind Kennedy, somewhere around there.
We also know, I've found this in the files recently, that various parts of the hotel were guarded by different guards. Thane Eugene Caesar was one of several guards hired by the hotel through a security. A security had like 8 or 10 guys there that night. And different guards were being very good at their posts and checking people's ID and only letting certain people in. But for whatever reason, the kitchen was constantly unguarded, and one of the Kennedy staffers is complaining to the police in the files about how she had to keep shooing people out of the kitchen. No one was supposed to be there except press people, you know, or, you know, certainly Robert Kennedy and his immediate, you know, attendants. But the person who was charged with guarding the kitchen door was Thane Eugene Caesar. So, I mean, if you wanted to have a guy, you know, in there to make sure Sirhan got into the room, because frankly, if your patsy doesn't get in the pantry, the whole plot is off, right? You know, you got to get him into the pantry, and the only way to do that is to make sure whoever's guarding the room is going to let him in. So I find it really interesting that Thane Eugene Caesar was the guard stationed at the kitchen that night.
When I got to the police station, I noticed I lost my tie, and I figured, well, I figured when I got knocked down is when it got knocked off. Well, so when they took me back to the hotel, I went into the kitchen area, and the sheriff was still there. There was 3 or 4 men there. They were looking for bullets, because there was all...
While the circumstantial evidence against Caesar is strong, it should also be mentioned that there are reliable reports of other guns in the pantry. Dr. Philip Melanson is the director of the RFK Assassination Archives at the University of Massachusetts, and he has investigated these reports.
To date, there have been 4 witnesses whose accounts seem credible to me, who have talked about seeing a man in plain clothes with a gun in the pantry. And 3 of those 4 witnesses allege that such a gun was fired in proximity to Kennedy.
Since there were no Secret Service men present in the pantry, these reports have sinister implications.
As Sirhan stepped out and fired at the senator, as he was going down, I saw many guns being pulled out. And one gun was pulled out by a security guard, and it was fired. And that's what I saw.
The first policeman to arrive at the Ambassador Hotel after the shooting was Sergeant Paul Sharaga. As Sharaga moved through the parking lot, he encountered a severely distressed older couple.
I asked them what had happened, and the woman related that her and her husband were outside the embassy room when a young couple in their late teens or early 20s, the girl wearing a polka dot dress, came running by them shouting, "We shot him, we shot him, we killed him." And the older woman asked, "Who did you shoot?" And the young woman said, "Kennedy, we shot him, we killed him." And then the two of them ran off, just real happy, real joyful.
Schraga took the names and addresses of the couple he remembers as the Bernsteins and immediately put out an all-points bulletin on the two people they described. He wrote a report in triplicate with this information and sent it to headquarters. Schraga's APB would soon be canceled over his objections. His reports would vanish.
A couple of weeks later, I went to refer to him for one reason or another, and they were all missing. And I asked one of the day watch sergeants if he knew anything about it, and he stated that 2 SUS men had been there that day and cleaned out all the reports. I called them. They denied that they'd even been there. Then apparently they felt they had to make another report, and they made a false interview report which stated that they interviewed me, and I had retracted my statements about we shot him to they shot him. I never was interviewed. I never contradicted my first two statements, but nevertheless, apparently they thought that the reports would not be scrutinized or subject to scrutiny. What they didn't count on, I guess, was the fact that I'd kept one of the reports myself, the original stencil copy.
But disappearing reports and canceled APBs were not the only oddities the evening of June 4th.
We lost complete radio communication for a period of 40 to 45 minutes. Something was very strange. It never happened before. At present, there's no question in my mind that elements of the CIA were involved. Two of the officers, Lieutenant Pena and Hank Hernandez, and the LAPD had retired some years before and gone to work for a government agency that was later found to be front for the CIA. And then almost as if by magic, they showed up and were at the Emergency Control Center within a very short time after the assassination.
It's really interesting that Manny Pena is the one trying to shut that avenue down, because he's also the one that's directly connected to the CIA, and he was also the choke point of the investigation. There's a flow chart that shows kind of the routing of information through SUS, and it starts at this desk, and then it goes here, and then it goes here, and at some point it gets to Manny Pena's desk, and he had sole authority to determine what got further, investigated and what got shut down. And he had worked for AID, the Agency for International Development, which was a well-known CIA cover agency, providing cover to the CIA. And also, his brother was on TV saying how much Manny Pena enjoyed his years of service to the CIA. So it's pretty well established that, he was not just an LA police officer. He was a CIA operative. So very interesting that he would be in the catbird seat regarding the investigation of Robert Kennedy.
Sandra Serrano was a 20-year-old Kennedy campaign worker. She went to the Ambassador Hotel with a few friends on primary night. But after a while, she decided to get out of the heat and retreated to an exit staircase outside the hotel. At about 11:45, she claimed 3 people, a woman and 2 men, one of whom she would later identify as Sirhan, pushed by her on the staircase and went into the hotel. About a half hour later, she said the same woman and one of the men came running down the stairs. The woman seemed exuberant, and she and Serrano had a bizarre exchange of words, which Serrano described live on TV just a little while later.
I was standing there just thinking about how many people there were and how wonderful it was. Then this girl came running down the stairs in the back, and said, "We've shot him, we've shot him." And I says, "Who did you shoot?" And she says, "We shot Senator Kennedy." She had on a white dress with polka dots. She was light-skinned, dark hair. She had black shoes on. A boy came down with her. He was about 23 years old, and he was Mexican-American, because I can remember that because I'm Mexican-American.
The man that I interviewed on that tape was named John Fahey. He claims to have spent the day with a girl who later became known as the girl in the polka dot dress. This girl predicted the killing of Senator Kennedy not only as to the date, but to the exact occasion on which it would occur. A team of investigators composed of Jordan Bonfanti, Bureau Chief for Life magazine in Los Angeles, and myself set out to verify the story of John Fahey. We were fortunate enough to be able to confirm an important portions of that story. We further went on and gave the man a polygraph test, a lie detector test, and which the man passed with flying colors. The description given by Fahey of this woman was so detailed that we were able to get a